Welcome to today's morning power up call that is not in the morning for probably about anyone on this call. But we are here, we are live, we are doing this call. I'm glad to have you guys here. Um, Obviously, different location, different place. I travel around a lot. This is also the holidays, so you might see me in some interesting places that are maybe a little bit different from where you would normally see someone like me, which is totally okay. Today's call is going to be about a very simple idea. We touched upon it yesterday when we talked about the attitude versus the technique, right? And a lot of you guys like, well, how do you get in the right attitude? What's the right attitude you need to have in order to persuade someone? And the first thing you have to really understand is sales and marketing is a transference of belief over a bridge of trust. This is something we talked about quite a bit inside of the different channels that we talked about it many times inside of the boot camp. Now, how do you transfer that belief? What beliefs are you transferring? Like, obviously, you're transferring things like this thing actually works. This will help your life. I know what I'm talking about. There's a whole bunch of different beliefs that you might have as a marketer that you are sending to the people who are reading your words or listening to your videos or whatever we're talking about here. How do you transfer your belief to them, right? How do you get them to believe the things that you believe, the things that you believe are what impact your decision making and helps you get the results you want? How do you help someone else believe the same things that you believe? It's pretty simple. The very first step to transfer a belief to someone else is to put yourself into a state of belief, right? To fully and entirely believe with the utmost conviction that what you are communicating is true. You think about that belief, you think about how certain you are about that thing, that fact being real. And then when you sit down to write, when you start to actually convey your thoughts, they, for some reason, and I'm not going to get woo woo about this, but like it feels like the energy goes through the words better and it helps someone actually believe something. You'll find that when you're surrounded by someone who has a really strong belief, right, that you tend to feel that belief surge up inside yourself as well. Maybe it's because we're humans, we're social animals. Maybe it's like, pure old, like, you believe this. If he believes it so strongly, then you should probably believe it so you don't get killed by the tiger or whatever it is, right? For some reason, the stronger you believe something, when you then turn around and speak about that thing, the more likely it is to create a reciprocal belief inside of the other person, right? And all you need to do is have them start to believe. And then as you continue to give them more ideas, more information, they get to experiment on the belief that you've given them. The stronger it becomes in them as they see it start to actually fulfill and they actually start to see it play out inside their lives. So when you sit down to write, the first thing you need to do is you need to get in a state of absolute certainty. And here's how I like to do this for different products that I'm writing for. The first thing I like to do is sit down and read testimonials and read the case studies and think about the times that either my product that I'm selling has been really successful for me or for other people, or just read case studies and hear about how other people have benefited from this particular product or solution in the past, right? The more I read that, the stronger my certainty is. Then when I sit down to actually sit down and write, I can write in a significantly more, it's in a better position, right? I'm able to write with a certain amount of strength, with a certain amount of conviction that then gets conveyed over to the reader. And let me tell you a story about how I've seen this play out in my life, both positively and negatively. So way back in the day when I was going to school I studied business management at university for like a year. And then I was like, this is ridiculous. My teacher, he's never run a business and he's supposed to teach me how to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, forget that. And I left, right? I started working at these different startups in the area where I was going to school at, and one of them had like really cool VCs backing. It was a really cool company, and it was like a dental software. It was a software for dentists that allowed them to, when they took an inbound call, to be able to see what patient that was and what thing they needed, and like a whole bunch of information. It was really cool, right? It helped the dental office provide a much more personalized experience for the person calling. It helped them maximize the revenue. It was amazing, like the stats and the data we had about how it helped businesses increase their revenue, how to help them increase their ratings online. It was an amazing product. It was really cool, right? I remember I joined this company. I met the founder, talked with him. He offered me a position. His company, started working there. And I was like, this is really cool software. I saw all the data. I just loved it. So I started, and this was back in the day when cold calling was like the most effective way to do it for this particular niche. So I was on the phone cold calling nonstop, dentists all day long. Dude, my first 2 weeks, I crushed every record they had. Just went in there and just like knocked it out of the park. It was an amazing experience, a lot of fun. But then something happened. Again, I was young. I didn't really know what was happening until afterwards, looking back on it with hindsight. But I was just crushing these sales calls, just one after another. But over time, I got to a point where I'd have like maybe a bad day or something, and lots of people would say no. And then I would begin to more and more like question the effectiveness of what we had. Like, is this actually helping people? Is this actually good? People are saying no. Does that mean people even like it? Right? They had these strong beliefs that they were selling to me. And I was assuming them as a young guy on the phone, and over time, my number started to drop and drop and drop. Right? And eventually, I'm like, the product's no good, whatever. And I left the company. Right? Way later. Right? I had a different opportunity, went to that. That process has repeated a couple of different times at a couple of different sales positions I was in. And I realized at one point, the second time it happened, so I was at a different company, different startup, different software, really powerful thing for people. Same thing happened. I got that slump after I hit that beginner high, right? I was like, why is this? Why is this? I started thinking about it. I realized it was because my conviction in the product was lower at that moment. The moment I was sitting there talking to these people, my conviction, how strongly I felt that this would actually work, that'd be good for them. Like that was all maybe at like a 2 instead of a 10. When I first started, it was like a 10 or 11, right? Extremely enthusiastic, extremely strong belief in the product I was selling. So I realized this. I became aware of like, okay, I need to find a way to improve my feeling of belief around this. So I started reading the testimonials, the positive ones. I started looking at our best customers or case studies. I was like, dude, this is an amazing. Like I felt strongly convicted about the product again. Started my sales calls. Surprise, surprise, right back to the original high point of just being able to sell because I had this strong belief. I was helping these people and they'd step in and they'd get a lot of benefit and it became a positive cycle. And I got really good at deflecting the negative beliefs that came at me and instead staying true to the beliefs on the things I knew were true. And I did really, really well with that company. And then I joined the military and went off on a different adventure in life, which was great. But I learned that principle and I applied it from it since day one when I started copywriting. Whenever I sit down to write for a product or a service, I first get into a state of absolute certainty and excitement around the product itself. I think about all the ways that it helps people. I watch video testimonials, I read testimonials, I run little movies in my brain of the transformation from before and after, and it gets me into a state that allows me to turn around and persuade significantly better. My writing has more vibrance, more meaning, more power, and more belief behind it. It's super useful. It's something to think about. So when you guys are sitting down to write, whether it's your sales emails, whether it's your practice for the boot camp, whether it's the stuff you actually do for your clients, you first need to get into a state of absolute belief and certainty. I say absolute. You just need to you need to increase your certainty level by reading stuff about the product, reading stuff about people changing this. If it's a brand new product that doesn't have a lot of testimonials, look at other testimonials the brand has or similar products, the testimonials that they have. Find ways to get into a mood or a state of absolute belief, and you'll find that you're able to write significantly better. Again, this is beyond just like the technique of writing. This is the sort of the spirit of the attitude of writing. If you can get this down, usually it doesn't really matter how good your words are, good or bad, the job will get done. If your words are really good, you'll do even better. So before you sit down to write, get yourself into a state of absolute certainty, and you will find that you're able to write with significantly more conviction, significantly more power. Well, this has been a great call. This has been a fun one. I'll try and do one tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I may have to do it at a different time, different locations. So bear with me as we go through this. I'll be dropping some value in the chats later today around some of the advanced psychology I talked about before. So stay in tune. The real world we're continuing to build that out and get it more and more effective, less and less buggy, and easier for you guys to get the access to me that you need to learn better inside of this program. It's been a great call, and I will talk with you guys again tomorrow.